now, so I think
Good.
we're gonna go ahead and start. It is
What, we have 8
my very great pleasure to invite some of our most recent members, Brenda and Steve Baska. They're out in Oregon in their beautiful home and the beautiful surroundings of nature in Oregon. And we had a really wonderful weekend just recently when they came into town, and they'll tell you all about that. But we got a chance to meet them in person at the temple. We got a chance to be together and to pray together, and it was absolutely marvelous. And they were very gracious. I thought, what a perfect opportunity to have them share their story with us, in a slightly different setting. And so, thank you very much for agreeing to be our guests and our host at the same time today. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Brenda and Steve.
Hey, take away.
Well, thank you. It's been quite an experiment or experience, and this is a bit of an experiment as well. So yeah, we were going to share a little bit about our journey and how we came to Temple Har Zion and how we came to Judaism. And I'm not sure if it's a totally unique story, but it's our story, and it's a way of you getting to know us. And so I'm very happy that we have this time and that we can present ourselves to you, so to speak. So let's see, I'm going to start back in 1928, 1929.
She was very young then.
Yeah.
That's when my mother and my father were born. And then I was born much later. I was a bit of a surprise. I believe my mom was about my age when I came around. And so I was maybe even more than a bit of a surprise to them. They weren't expecting to have me. My father wasn't expecting to have any children. And so I did not know either my maternal side of my family or my paternal side of my family. And it wasn't until probably about a decade ago that I was going through some things from my father's estate, and I saw my paternal grandmother's death notification. He had saved it, and it had her maiden name on it. And I thought, wow, that looks different. And then I was like, that looks Jewish. And so, I did a Google search, found out it's a German Yiddish name. And then I thought, well, that's interesting. And so then I started just doing some search about what are some Jewish customs? What are some things? And I found a lot of things, a lot of the way I was raised started making sense, and things started falling into place. And I was a little bit blown away by the whole idea. And there were traditions that, such as it was very much instructed to me. I have two sons, very much instructed that I would not cut my boys' hair until they turned 3. And it was something passionate that my family conveyed to me. There were other things that I still don't fully understand about, like, and it's kind of silly, but put your right shoe on, you put your left shoe on, you tie your left shoe, you go back and you tie your right shoe. I don't fully understand the reason, but I'm sure a rabbi will tell me at some point. So there were a lot of the customs, and my family was not religious. I knew that my dad believed in God. I knew he did not believe in anything that was of a Christian faith. And then, there were other things throughout my life that finally I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So it took several years, you know, of course I thought, like, what does it mean? What does it mean if I come from a Jewish background? What does that mean? And it took a lot of years for me to have learned about like paternal lineage and maternal lineage. And so we started talking about it, learning, researching. We started keeping holidays with Jewish families in our area. We live in a very rural area. Our closest community is 85 miles away. And if we speed really fast, we could get to a community in about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half. But it's down the gorge, and weather would have to be perfect, and no police on the roads. So, you know, I connected with the local community and asked about education, and they were very open as long as we traveled there. There wasn't here's our first picture, Eastern Oregon. And it kind of shows rural Oregon. Yeah, this is a beautiful area that we hiked to. It's called Eagle Cap Wilderness. And so, yeah, we shared a couple of pictures of rural, our rural area. Number one, to show the beauty of the area that we live in, but also maybe as a bit of an enticement if you ever want to come and visit. And so, yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm bouncing a little bit. I contacted the local community, and anything that we wanted to engage with, we would need to travel for. And we did. We have roughly a half a dozen Jewish families in our area, and there would be times where me and the other families would go down for holidays. We went down for class. The Judaism 101 class, I contacted them a couple of years in a row, and they didn't have virtual options. And unfortunately, they offer the class in the middle of the week, late at night. 5 o'clock the next day comes really early in the morning when you don't get back until 11 or midnight. So that was not something that we were able to attend until the pandemic. But anytime that we could, we would go down to classes in the local community. And other than that, we connected with the Jewish families in our area, would ask tons of questions, spend time with them. They would invite us to holidays at their homes. And I'm going to say that all happened between the last 6 and 7 years. And then the pandemic hit. And I've said frequently, the pandemic, for all of the negative it has brought to the world, it's opened up a door for Steve and I. And when it hit, I contacted Judaism 101 here again, and they said, oh yeah, we have it virtual. And so that got me to thinking that if that was virtual, what else would be virtual? And I had learned about paternal lineage, and so we wanted to convert, and we didn't think it would be a possibility because we couldn't move to a community. When this initially started, my husband was the captain of our local police department. That's not really a job that you can just transfer. And I took a job for the state of Oregon, and it's positioned here. I actually manage 4 counties, but the seat is here in the Dalles. And so that's not something that's easily transferred. So with Judaism 101 being virtual, we got to do we got to thinking about conversion again, which was pretty exciting for us. And during this time frame, my husband also had gotten some information. We did the 23andMe DNA thing.
Mhm. Yeah, so back again to 1928, my dad was born Marvin Miles Cedar, and his father, Harry Cedar, left for work a couple of days after he was born and was never seen of again. So we didn't know anything about that side of the family. Well, in 2018, I happened to, because I don't check it, but every few months I was looked up at 23andMe, and I saw that I had a new nearest relative. And it said it was a first cousin. And I go, well, that can't be, because I know all my cousins. They're all on my mom's side because my dad was an only child. Well, long story short is that he wasn't my first cousin. He was my half uncle. He's 90, I think he's 94 years old now. But turns out old Harry had been married several times under different last names. And of course, back in those days, you could do that because there was no paper trail. So my dad actually had 6 brothers and 1 sister. And 2 of his brothers are named Marvin. And Marvin in Iowa, Red Oak, Iowa, there's a Marvin and Miles there. And I met Marvin. I went back there on a family reunion, and he's in his late 90s. And he would be the second child of Harry. Well, it turns out that Cedar, and he married another woman, and they moved to California and had 5 kids, and he used the name Cedars, but spelled Steartrs. So I was never able to find him when I was trying to do research because all the false names. Well, anyway, his real name is Cedarburg. And I went back there and met the families and stuff. And they immigrated from Switzerland. And so it kind of filled in a lot of gaps. And there's actually a 2-year gap where he kind of dropped off the radar. So he married the lady in Red Oak, Iowa in 1924. He had 2 kids with her, and then he married a lady in a near city, but he got caught. His dad found out about it and put an ad in the newspaper, and he was embarrassed and jumped a train or whatever and headed west and met my grandmother in Montana because he was a sheep shearer. My great grandparents owned a sheep farm. So they got married under his assumed name, and then when he met, her last name was Tippy, and they moved to California. And he was married to her for 50 years and died in 1991. So my dad never did find out because he died in 1910, or 1910. He died in 2010, and so he never found out that he had siblings. I think he would have been very excited about that. He wouldn't have been happy with Harry because the family lore was that Harry had gotten killed and his body never found out. But I found out later through all this that my grandmother actually filed for divorce for abandonment in 1934.
Well, and Cedarburg wasn't the only surname that you found. Your great grandma?
No, it'd be the second great grandma.
Second great grandma is a
Yeah.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, Bloomberg, Eva Bloomberg. So we were hoping that she'd be related to the money, but I don't think so.
He's joking.
Anyway, so that kind of filled in a lot of gaps for us there. And but in my journey, it's been mostly through study, studying the scriptures and looking at how things didn't line up to some of the things that we come from, and none of the questions I had could be answered well, and it came to a point, without going into huge detail, I just said, well, this is not true because of all the errors and misinformations and false translations. And then when I got my hands on the JBS, because it was, I felt it was more accurately translated, because I don't speak Hebrew. I had to rely on translations, and I found out that a lot of the translations were not translated correctly. And some of the words in there may have been manipulated on purpose to make things fit. So without being too disparaging against all those translators, I started doing my own studying and came to an understanding that there can only be one true religion. I mean, God's not schizophrenic where he'd be all over. So I, after much soul searching, came to the revelation that, that Judaism was the only thing that fit, but there was also something within me that was like a desire that I couldn't put my finger on. It was just this hunger that I needed to live a Jewish life. I mean, it's hard. I told Rabbi when I first talked to him, I said, I quit smoking in 1996. And I said, it's a lot like that. You have this craving and hunger, and the only thing that's going to feed it is what you're desiring. And I said, the only thing that's going to help feed my soul is to convert to Judaism and live that Jewish life and to study God's word correctly. So, and that's how that was my journey. And then I went to Brenda and I said, we need to convert. And she goes, well, I've been waiting. She was just waiting on me to figure it out. So
back to when everything became virtual, it really kind of did open some doors. And so we were very fortunate in how we approached it was, I started searching rabbis and I started reading their bios, and we started narrowing down who we thought would fit. And there were a couple of emails that went out, that we sent out. We started attending services on Facebook, and on Facebook, you can't really tell that there's somebody attending by that, because it's not like Zoom where you can see a picture or see a name. And so we were attending services, several different synagogues on Facebook, and looking at all these different communities. And we had sent an email to Rabbi Click, and he had responded. The first email he responded was very nice, like, oh, that's interesting, I'll reach out to you soon. And then I can be a little persistent. And he's talked a couple of times about his time in Calcutta when he was a young man. And one time he was talking about the people and how their desperation and their poverty had moved him and touched his heart and his emotion. And I was like, oh, I'm sending him another email. This is going to be our rabbi. And so I sent him the second email. I was like, these are the holidays we've kept. This is what we've done. These are the experiences. This is the education that we have been trying to educate ourselves. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that we are, Steve educates himself very well. It doesn't mean that we are the all-knowing. We just try to learn. And so then Rabbi emailed back and said, we will definitely be in touch. And so I think that our journey was unique for a few different ways. Our location, living so far away, it made it so, we really thought we would not be able to convert until we both had retired and moved. We really thought that this was not an option for us right now. We were going to do it, absolutely. But we didn't know it could be or would be done like, not that we're super young, but we haven't fully retired. And so that being able to do something virtually, I think was unique. I think another unique thing is that we got to choose our community. And it was, Charles said something about like synagogue shopping, or somebody did. I think that had we waited or needed to wait until we both retired, we would have moved close by. And then we would have had a couple places to choose from. And we didn't have that. We had thousands to choose from. And I did not research thousands. But I would have continued had I not found Temple Har Zion. And then that being able to experience the services by Facebook and kind of not get to know everybody, because I didn't, but what I got to experience was that camaraderie and that connection and that community. And that was very impressive. And then, of course, when I met you all, it was like, yes, these are the wonderful people that have been on Facebook. And so that warmth and that welcomeness. And then, I really feel like the virtual must be somewhat unique. I don't know if it's totally unique, but I feel like the way that conversion was set up, or the way that we had understanding of it, it was very equal across the board. Everything I had even emailed Chabad in New York. I mean, I had emailed everybody, telling them our story and telling them how much we wanted to convert. And everybody said, move to a community. And Rabbi Glick, he was innovative. And, I feel like that was some unconventional thinking. And it wasn't so much about equality as it was equity. And I think that that's something that Temple Har Zion and us as a community should be very proud of, that he met us, he met people where they were at the time that they were at, and he saw if there was something that he could do. And then he was innovative in his thinking and his approach. And when it comes to equality, nobody can argue against equality. But there's something very special about equity when you see where there's just a little extra need or a little extra something different, and you rise to meet that, and you rise to be innovative and see what can we do, what can our participation in this be. And I feel that is what Rabbi Glick did. I feel that's what Temple Har Zion did in welcoming us. And, I think that, and I shouldn't really speak for Rabbi Glick, but I think that he saw our dedication, and he just saw that we had this need of being so rural, and he met that need by saying, yeah, I'll meet with you, I'll work with you, I'll teach you, and we'll move forward. And so we will always, it'll always be something amazing. And when Rabbi said, are you ready? On one hand, we were like, we have been ready, oh boy. And then yet we're also like, oh, we've got so much more to learn.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's kind of the highlights, but I also was hoping that maybe we could have a little interactive question answer visit. There are a few more.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to show some more of the pictures, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about what's in those pictures. So I'm just going to cycle through them. I'll stick on one for a little bit, and then you can tell us about it, and then I'll switch to the next one, okay?
Sounds good.
All right. And so let's see.
Is that Mirror Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mirror Lake. That's at
Oh.
about 9,000 feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We hiked up there. It's a very, very, very beautiful. That's in Eastern Oregon, just east of where we are. Okay, and then the next one is Israel. Okay, so this is not a gentleman that I know. We were in northern Israel up by the Syria border. And I saw this picture, I saw this young man, and behind him, if you see the other soldiers, they have their arms around each other, like on their shoulders. And I just was taken by how beautiful this was. I feel like it's extremely, I don't know, there's a sweetness to his face and dedication to his service, and then that that connection with the people behind him. I found this to be one of my absolute favorite pictures, and yeah, it's nobody that we know.
Yeah. The thing that struck me about that was that we're at a tourist spot, and they have they're using it as a military observation post. They're in the back into Syria. You can hear the artillery fire going on. So I thought that was just, it kind of struck me funny, because there's a gift store right off to the right where they're standing, and they're all sitting there looking into Syria. So it's a different environment.
And this is in Jerusalem. We were saying the Shehiyanu upon our arrival. You can see our oldest son is next to us. And then off to his left would have been our youngest son. But that was truly an amazing day. And our boys really, 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 really enjoyed Tel Aviv, and the night, the moment that the nightlife started.
You were out the door.
They were out the door at Rothschild Park and didn't come home for hours.
Yeah. And we had a great guide. We hired him just for the family. And his dad was one of Ben Guerin's, and he was just a walking history book of that land. I mean, it was just, we had a great time.
Okay, this is Sukkot with the family here in the Dalles, and they have traced their lineage back to a famous rabbi, and now I can't remember who it is. And these pictures were taken from cell phones, so they're not the best pictures. And after, we're learning so much. We're really, really learning a lot. And if we make mistakes, please, anybody tell us, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And after I sent these to Charles, I thought, oh, I wonder if it's okay to take pictures at holidays. And then I'm like, oh, I hope it was, because we did. And yeah, and that is Sukkot as well. The little man that you see in the background there, he's kind of become a little bit of an internet sensation. So if you have teenagers, they likely know him. He's been all over the world. He was on the front of Jerusalem Post.
It was funny, because I read the Jerusalem Post most mornings, and I bring it up. There's Jesse on the front page. I go, Jesse's on the front page of the Jerusalem Post. And I had no idea he's some big TikTok, TikTok?
Yeah, it's TikTok. I don't know what that is.
It's some kind of social media that the kids all like. He's big on it. He was living in Israel at the time, and the reason he was on the page is he was going to go at some big concert and talk there. And the thing that cracks me up about it is I went on TikTok and looked at some of his videos. He's just being Jesse. He's just being a teenage kid, and he's making bank on it.
Oh, you said this one's last, so I'll skip over it.
Oh, there's the boys. So yeah, this obviously is in Jerusalem, and and it was amazing. It's kind of interesting how we all connect differently. The boys, like I said, Tel Aviv, they just could have stayed there the whole time. I really liked Northern Israel. I really liked it. And then Steve was like, we could spend a month. Actually, I think he has said next time, let's go to Jerusalem for a full month and just stay there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, also Pina Roche. Is that
Yes.
it? Yeah, I really like that
Rosh
place.
Pina.
Roche Pina.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were there for Shabbat, which was, because we had an apartment within walking distance of Hakotel. And so we were able just to walk there for Shabbat, and it was very nice. And then the boys here, they came up and they said, hey, some people invited us to their house to continue with Shabbat. What do you think? And I go, oh, go.
You're insured.
So yes, very wonderful time.
All right, let's see. That's back at home, right?
This is back at home. It's one of my favorite hikes. You can see there's a double waterfall here. With this area, there's actually a triple fall, but because it's so massive, you can't really get it all in one picture. You would need a drone to get it into one picture. And I think I'm not a very spatial person, but I think that what you see right here is probably a couple hundred feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's really quite massive, and these kind of waterfalls are all over here. This one is a quick hike. It's close by, round trip. It's like 3 miles, and it's pretty easy hike. So we take a lot of people to this spot.
Is it time for the last picture? The special
Yes,
one?
I think so.
Okay.
And then this was after conversion, and Steve holding up his certificate signed by everyone, which I'm going to get framed.
Sure.
Yes, it really was a dream. I mean, it really was a dream come true. We did not think that this was going to happen at this time, and it was quite amazing. And so does anybody, would anybody like to ask us any questions?
Yeah, this time we're going to do a little bit differently. Other than instead of doing the chat, we thought it would be very friendly if people just wanted to ask questions directly. And so please jump in.
Marlene, you're muted.
What is your occupation?
Well, I spent most of my life in a uniform of one kind or another. Out of high school, I was in the Marine Corps, and then I joined the National Guard after getting out of that. I've been a corrections officer, a tribal police officer, and then I spent 31 years for the city of the Dalles and retired as the captain. So that, in a nutshell, is what I did.
How do your boys feel about your conversion?
How do the kids feel? So our oldest son, I don't think that he fully understands the paternal maternal line. And then our youngest boy, he was kind of funny. He goes, "What? I thought you finalized this years ago."
Yeah, and our daughter, she was like, what? This doesn't make sense. But she was fine. She's the one that picked us up at the airport when we got home. So okay.
That picture that you had at the border, Marlene will remember when we were on our Israel trip, Marlene and the rabbi and his wife and all of the people that were there, and Howard and I, we were in the exact same spot looking into Syria. Remember, Mark?
Are they still shooting the guns?
Yeah.
It was very emotional seeing these to me, they were young boys with the rifles and what their responsibility was. It was very emotional. A few of us ladies shed some tears for them.
Yeah, it's amazing. There was one point where they had the United Nations at a checkpoint, and I asked Siv, I says, can I take pictures of him? I mean, is that okay? And he says, that's fine, but I'm going to drop you off and drive around the parking lot because they sometimes have snipers here.
Gee,
Yeah,
thanks.
as I'm getting out to take the pictures, I go, well, how's that work? Yeah, so he drove around the parking lot. I took a few pictures and then we got back in and left.
He was probably just having fun with you.
He probably was. I mean, I hadn't paid him yet.
Yes. Yeah.
So, Steve and Brenda, I'm just wondering, now that you're both converted, has the thought come across that maybe you want a Jewish wedding?
Oh,
Oh.
interesting. That's interesting, Suzanne.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
You know, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things.
I think you planted a seed there.
That's interesting. Yeah.
how much better to really celebrate the journey than to have a Jewish wedding.
Yeah.
And it would be wonderful if it was at Har Zion.
Yes.
And we'd
Yes.
all celebrate with you.
One of the reasons
I think we should all go there. I think for the
Oh, that's better yet.
yeah, the ambiance.
Better yet.
we'll hike to 10,000 and we'll do it up there at Mirror Lake.
Perfect.
A lot of people take horses up there. They horseback ride up. I could see doing that, but I don't know if I'm going to put a pack on and hike that far.
Yeah.
Let me ask you another question. Now you become a religious Jew of the conservative denomination. And why do you believe now our society is less and less are inclined to believe in supreme preacher? And I want to ask you, Steve, because you read a lot of corresponding literature, what makes you to believe in God?
To me, just look around. I mean, if you look around, in order, if you make a Swiss watch, there was a maker that made that. And if you look around at this planet, what would have happened if we just been another 2-3 feet away from the sun or closer to the sun? I mean, and they talk about a big bang and stuff like that, but you can't bring order out of disorder. There's got to be a creator to make what we have. An explosion is just going to destroy stuff, where something like this needs, you need a creator, you need something to be made. And that's why when I looked around, I said, well, there's a God. We just got to figure out what the right path is to God. And nothing even comes close to Judaism. Nothing.
I call it the miracle which surrounds us on any step.
Yes. You just think about the eyeball and what the eyeball can do. I mean, there had to be someone to make that.
Well, and when we say someone, of course, we're not describing any kind of.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about a deity. I'm talking about one God,
Well, now you need some copies of Vladimir's books, because he writes beautifully about all of these ideas. And you see, I got him moving.
Yeah, he's gonna go get the books and hold them up. Yeah.
This man is prolific. He writes books.
Oh, and that was one of the very first questions Rabbi asked, was like, he says, what books have you read? And we started like talking about them, but we couldn't, on the fly, we can't think that quick. And so then we constructed a list of like 10 or 12 or, and then he said, what about Rabbi Telushkin's book? You might start there. And by the next time we met, we're like, well, we both read it. And he goes, hey?
Well, and I actually had the book. I had picked it up in Goodwill, and it was his first printing. And then
But now
Rabbi,
we have more to look for now that we know that we have an author in our midst.
Yeah. So I bought his 2008 edition because Rabbi said there was a lot of changes done in that one, and that's the one we've been reading.
So Vladimir, which one should we start with?
In what exactly?
Your books,
Your
Vlad.
Your books.
What to start with?
Communist days.
The book is magnificent, underestimated. I had a very good resume from Kirkus reviews and things like that, but it is unpromoted. But what I tried to explain there was that I was born in the atheistic family in the Soviet Union, and my parents never believed in God because of different reasons, which I explained in the book. And especially my mother, after atrocities which she saw growing up in Russia. But I have just this intuitive believing that there is no explanation of what surrounds us in the final count than the idea of God. How God looks, what's happening, I don't know. But I see this magnificent, incredible world about us from the galaxy and all the way to the quantum. Everywhere we're surrounded with incredible simplicity, which hides incredible complexity of what is around us. And of course, the crown of everything is our consciousness, how we perceive the world, how our words are formed in our mind while they are immaterial. So what to start with? To start with, I remember I was attending some lecture of one Orthodox rabbi, and somebody asked him, that was about the codes of the Bible, and somebody asked him, so he was small with a big beard, and they asked him, you should stop me because I can talk forever. So they asked him, Rabbi, do you believe in these codes in the Bible? And he answered a very remarkable answer. He says, you don't need to believe in codes or whatever, just look at the starry sky, and that is enough. So, I like this book by Telushkin, of course, but even one of the greatest books which really corresponds to my thought is by Prager and Telushkin, Nine
Questions. Questions.
Principles, isn't it?
Principles, right, of idea of God. So I always, after my very hard experience growing up in the Soviet Union, where people are saying about racism here, in Russia, attitude toward Jews is naked hatred. It is on all level of the society, and my attitude to this was when I meet somebody who wants to become a Jew, I want to ask, as many other, I'm not original in this, why all of a sudden you want to get united with people who had such a incredible destiny to be hated? Yes, of course, the whole world is, majority of the world hates Jews.
They hate what they can't have.
That's right. And that's and my another, by the way, more cynical outlook to this issue of being a Jew is, of course, I needed to have a vengeance of all the insults which I encountered every day when I studied at Kishinev Medical School, with all the history of the pogroms there in 1902.
Well, this is
And,
why you wrote your books, right?
Huh?
This is why you wrote your books.
Yeah, that's
So
so I want to
you
exactly.
should tell
So-
Brenda and Steve which of your books is the best place to start to read your oeuvre.
Just 1 second, I just want to finish it. So it is my vengeance to all of these people who were giving me names Kike every day, many times, because that's where I grew up, in this kind of a bubble which was surrounding me. And my final revenge is that my son is a professor of the law at Loyola School, is believing in God, not to such degree as I am. And my both grandchildren are in the Jewish school. They graduated at Jewish school, and they are fervent Jews. And that's me who gave it to them. It's my final revenge. But I don't want to promote the book. I'm sorry. But my credo of why Judaism is my home is in this book. Why we remain Jews. And by the way, Steve, it's exactly my proof. One of them proof that of necessity to believe in God, because there is no other way to explain our place in this universe is to believe in God for all the miracle of our existence.
Exactly.
Charles, thank you.
You are welcome.
I have a
Yeah, I
question.
told you I'd get you on the Temple Talks.